Hello, this is Jerry. Welcome back to the book of Nehemiah. We are on part 4, chapter 3. So last week we took a side road on the topic of the tombs of David in the city of David. And I've been thinking about what it was like for the Jerusalem workers who regularly saw the tombs of the kings. There beside them was a graphic reminder of the last 384 years of their history up to the tragic start of the 70-year Babylonian captivity. There was their hero, King David, who brought Israel to Jerusalem. And over there, King Solomon, the wise, who built the temple. And then the other kings, most of whom were evil and had led Judah away from God. 11 of them were evil. 4 were mixed, part of their reign good and part evil, and 5 righteous. So over twice as many evil as good. Those Jews rebuilding Jerusalem would have had a sense of this. Some kings were so bad they were buried in a different second-class cemetery, which probably was also in view. If not beside the first cemetery, then somewhere around the edge of the city of David where they worked. So the majority of their rulers and the people under them, their ancestors, aroused the wrath of God, resulting in the Babylonian captivity and the temple destruction. What a sermon that cemetery was preaching to those returned exiles. And you know what else was preaching to them? The very ground they were treading, and all those broken down walls and gates, stark reminders that this place was earlier a fierce battlefield where Jerusalem was filled with terror and bloodshed. We can't imagine. And I say these were sermons from God because all the Jews knew this was judgment from the Lord for their idolatry and other sins. The Lord's prophets made sure the people got that connection. Now they were picking up the pieces. Clearly, the Lord is not one to be trifled with, or ignored, or put on the shelf with other gods. And yet here they were, back in the land. So there was His mercy and forgiveness also. So it would be no surprise that some of them maybe looked up into the heavens and prayed something like, "Lord, help us to get it right this time." Okay, we are up to chapter 3, verse 8, where a few hundred people are working from sunup to sundown around the Jerusalem perimeter. Now, if you were observing, your senses would be filled as you saw them working in so many small and large groups, people carrying materials back and forth. You'd hear the buzz of their work communication. You might at times hear some hearty Jewish work songs. You'd smell the food cooking that kept them going, and the aroma of the temple sacrifices at times. And so we begin, verse 8. Next to them, Uzziel, the son of Harhaiah, goldsmiths, repaired. Next to him, Hananiah, one of the perfumers, repaired, and they restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. So the goldsmiths, used to very fine, intricate work, are now wielding big stones. And there was the perfumer, like a chemist who mixes and sells aromatic oils, ointments, and incense for personal and the temple use. Now the broad wall was repaired from the Babylonian conquest. Archaeologists found this in the 1970s, and it dates to the time of King Hezekiah in the 700s BC. Or, as very recent archaeology in 2024 claims, this was built even earlier by King Uzziah after the great earthquake of 750 BC, and perhaps Hezekiah added to the height of the Uzziah broad wall. Next to them, Raphael, the son of Hur, ruler of half the district of Jerusalem, repaired. Next to them, Jedaiah, the son of Harumaph, repaired opposite his house, and next to him Hattush, the son of Hashabneah, repaired. Malchijah, the son of Harim, and Hashub, the son of Pahath-Moab, repaired another section, and the Tower of the Ovens. Okay, the Tower of the Ovens was probably the area where many bakers made their bread, which would have been a hard place for me to work, as there's nothing like the smell of baking bread to set my stomach alarm off early. Next to him, Shallum, the son of Halohesh, ruler of half the district of Jerusalem, repaired, he and his daughters. Shallum evidently had no sons, but his daughters pitched right in. Oh, they were like the Rosie the Riveter women of World War II, who stepped into many of the men's jobs. No big deal, these daughters probably thought, just what needed to be done. I've noticed in history that most of the time, women are the least interested in praise for their sacrificial contributions to society. So many examples. Hanun and the inhabitants of Zanoah repaired the valley gate. They rebuilt it and set its doors, its bolts, and its bars, and repaired 1,000 cubits of the wall, as far as the dung gate. Now this map does not show the dung gate. I think maybe have been covered by the label there, landmarks and building the wall. But it is near this red star. This group restored an amazing 1,000 cubits of wall, about 1,500 feet. Well, that's getting near a third of a mile. The dung gate led to places for burning trash, human refuse, temple ashes, and other sacrificial remains. The gate is still in use today and retains the name, the Gate of Garbage, with how Nehemiah identified this. Malchijah, the son of Rechab, ruler of the district of Beth-Hacherem, repaired the dung gate. He rebuilt it and set its doors, its bolts, and its bars. And Shallum, the son of Kol-Hoseh, ruler of the district of Mizpah, repaired the fountain gate. He rebuilt it and covered it and set its doors, its bolts, and its bars. And he built the wall of the pool of Shelah of the king's garden, as far as the stairs that go down from the city of David. And remains of that staircase have been found. Now verses 16 to 32 continue with these descriptions, starting on the bottom here on this slide with the red arrow, verses 3:16 to 19, with the tombs of David and the angle, and then to the water gate, the Tower of Ophel, the horse gate, east gate, inspection gate, and back to the sheep gate where the chapter began. So now we enter chapter 4. Now when Sanballat heard that we were building the wall, he was angry and greatly enraged, and he jeered at the Jews. And he said in the presence of his brothers and of the army of Samaria, "What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore it for themselves? Will they sacrifice?" Sanballat was an instigator. Sometimes angry people want others to be angry with them. He spread his jeer among his brothers and the army of Samaria. Now, as the governor of Samaria, he is warming the army up against the Jews. It's common that if there's any chance of an army facing another country, the propaganda starts early in demonizing that country to their own army and to the citizenry. That's just what nations do. Will they finish up in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of rubbish, and burned ones at that? Many stones were broken into rubble or burned by the Babylonians. They push flammable material next to stones or light materials already there, and the fire breaks down the properties of the stone so that it crumbles and is no longer useful. Just like today, if a stone or cement block house suffers a fire, and the stone or cement is ruined. Tobiah the Ammonite was beside him, and he said, "Yes, what they are building. If a fox goes up on it, he will break down their stone wall. Okay. So they had their fun. And this was very intentional, spreading discontent against the Jews. And these insults and mockery circulated to the workers and Nehemiah, who prayed, "Hear, O our God, for we are despised. Turn back their taunt on their own heads, and give them up to be plundered in a land where they are captives. Do not cover their guilt, and let not their sin be blotted out from your sight, for they have provoked you to anger in the presence of the builders." This is one of those imprecatory prayers which we studied in the book of Jeremiah, praying judgment upon those who are opposing God's people, so that the work of God could continue. So we built the wall, and all the wall was joined together to half its height, for the people had a mind to work. So Nehemiah and the workers hear the mocking. Nehemiah commits this to the Lord, and they get back to work, refusing to be intimidated or fearful. They have a mind to work, not be distracted. So after this first round, the score is Jews 1, Sanballat and Tobiah 0. Now let's move to the next round. But when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabs and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the repairing of the walls of Jerusalem was going forward, and that the breaches were beginning to be closed, they were very angry. And they all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and to cause confusion in it. So Sanballat and Tobiah have been instigating a ring of resistance. Sanballat, governor of Samaria to the north, and Tobiah, governor of Ammon to the east. They now have the alliance of Geshem and the Arabs to the south of Judah, and Ashdod to the west. We see that a lot in history, when nations that were normally tolerating each other and are competitive in trade, sometimes they make close alliances over some common cause. They scheme against Jerusalem's success. And we prayed to our God and set a guard as a protection against them day and night. God somehow is alerting Nehemiah about these schemes, and so, quote, "we prayed to our God and set a guard." Plural, we prayed, not just Nehemiah this time. And they took practical measures like guard duty day and night. Now, just the word night reminded me that those living in Jerusalem are sharing a lot of hospitality because many of the workers were from other towns of Judah, and I'm sure many did not walk however many miles home every night. Jerusalem became a work camp where they all got to know each other pretty well, working and eating together and sleeping near each other. But now with this military threat, they also became soldiers, comrades in arms. So they prayed, posted guards, and kept working. Jews 2, Sanballat and Tobiah, zip. But then a surprising verse from an unexpected place. In Judah it was said, "The strength of those who bear the burdens is failing. There is too much rubble. By ourselves we will not be able to rebuild the wall." So unexpected. Our minds are taken from the conflict between the wall builders and those enemies to the people of Judah outside Jerusalem, the Jewish observers. What are they thinking? At this crucial time, some discouraged Jewish person crafted and spread this negative verse lamenting that the Jerusalem project will fail. Some Bibles rightfully format this as a poetic verse. It was a spoken dirge, a mournful reflection on how hopeless the project was. Now, if you have enjoyed the musical Les Miserables, you remember the opening scene of the dirge song of the prisoners doing hard labor. Look down, don't look 'em in the eye. That is, the French soldier guards. Look down, you're here until you die. Look down, You'll always be a slave. Look down, you're standing in your grave. Well, that's a dirge, a commiserating, soulful song in a minor key shared by the hopeless and the grieving. Now notice where. In Judah it was said, not Jerusalem, the capital where all the work was going on. This is certainly not good for new volunteers. Who wants to join a failing mission? And it begins in the third person plural. The strength of those who bear the burdens is failing. Those people are failing. Their job is too big with too much rubble. It can't be done. And the second part says, by ourselves we will not be able to rebuild the wall. Now remember, in Hebrew poetry there is parallelism. The second sentence is continuing or modifying or elaborating upon the first phrase or sentence. Now I'm not positive, but I think by moving to the first person plural, the author was concluding, we as a people cannot rebuild this wall by ourselves. The job is too much for the nation. But however we nuance that phrase, there is the message of inevitable failure. And the problem was not expertise. Yes, they're not stonemasons and engineers, and that might have also been a challenge, but it was that the strength of those who bear the burdens is failing. There is too much rubble. This saying in Judah reflects low morale about the Jerusalem project. Probably not by all of Judah, but a number significant enough to register the mention here. Lack of morale saps one's initiative and energy, doesn't it? It's like they're exhausted from a distance. Instead of sayings of support and offering prayer to God for them, they give Jerusalem discouragement. Instead of viewing the Jerusalem project with faith in God, there was this horizontal, pessimistic focus. Not what the workers in Jerusalem needed or wanted, because with our last check-in, the workers had a mind to work and were being successful in the face of opposition and threats. Defeatists are not the people we want to be hanging around regularly, right? And this dirge-like verse reaches the ears of Nehemiah and the workers, because, like Sanballat, who wanted others to share in his anger, some in Judah wanted everyone else to be discouraged with them. Have you heard this saying yet? We begrudgingly concede a point after this round. Jews 2, Sanballat and Tobiah 1. Let me share a brief poem I read this week, and I think the third verse especially captures the defeatist Jews of Judah. The world is full of careful nows and better not try that's, who wear their doubts like heavy coats and pessimistic hats. They'll tell you that the hill's too high, the water is too deep. They'll hand you blankets for your dreams and tell you go to sleep. Now this last verse, think of Judah. For it's easy to say the ship will sink while standing on the shore, but the one who says, I think you'll sail, is the one we're looking for. Wow. Well, let me share a short story about encouraging words. William Wilberforce was a devout Christian who God called to serve in Parliament in England and to seek the abolition of slavery. But all he did was opposed by the strong lobbying of those profiting from slavery. He told Parliament, you may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again that you did not know. From 1787 through 1790, his anti-slavery proposals were all defeated. All these defeats discouraged him. Meanwhile, in another English town, John Wesley was in his last days. He was 87 in his 88th year, and a fierce anti-slavery preacher for most of his long ministry. Wesley had never met Wilberforce, but was well aware of his crusade against slavery, and someone had just read a newspaper to Wesley about Wilberforce's current attempts. So Wesley took up pen on February 24th, 1791, and wrote his last letter before he passed about 6 days later on March 2nd. Dear Sir, unless the divine power has raised you up to be as Athanasius against the world, I see not how you can go through your glorious enterprise in opposing that execrable villainy which is the scandal of religion, of England, and of human nature. Unless God has raised you up for this very thing, you will be worn out by the opposition of men and devils. But if God be for you, who can be against you? Are all of them stronger than God? Oh, be not weary of well-doing. Go on, in the name of God and in the power of his might, till even American slavery, the vilest that ever saw the sun, shall vanish away before it. That he who has guided you from youth up may continue to strengthen you in this and in all things, is the prayer of, dear sir, your affectionate servant, John Wesley. Encouraging words at just the right time, along with other supporters too. Wilberforce kept pushing until in February 1807, a bill prohibiting England from participating in the slave trade did pass overwhelmingly after a 10-hour debate. At that moment, William Wilberforce wept in his Parliament seat. Parliament stood and gave him a standing ovation for his 20 years of struggle. But Wilberforce kept going until the passing in 1833 the Slave Abolition Act, which outlawed existing slavery within the British Empire, not just the transportation and trade of slaves. Wilberforce was doing a great work, and though many opposed him, he had many encouragers and supporters, like Wesley, that helped him succeed. Here's a sad question. How many of God's people never completed various righteous ministries or tasks because of naysaying, discouraging words, and the overall lack of support from other believers? And the cheery opposite, how many of God's people completed various righteous ministries or good tasks because of the encouraging words of other believers? Our words to others can be powerful for God or against what he is doing. So today we've seen that Nehemiah and the workers maintained their spiritual vision and focus and stayed on task with their work despite the opposition of others, those enemies following Sanballat, and also despite the discouragement and low morale of other Jews. Even though I awarded a point for Sanballat's team for the low morale of the many Jews, it did not succeed in halting the work. Next week, Lord willing, Sanballat and Tobiah continue their opposition, and at the worst time, a new internal challenge strikes within Jerusalem. And I think you'll be impressed again with Governor Nehemiah. Thanks very much.